What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Week 11 Power Rankings. This was a bit of a scrappy, unexpected week, but I do think we learned quite a bit, actually. I think we got a lot of movement in the middle. We got a lot of clarification on playoff picture. We can now eliminate some teams, and then there's also some kind of underlying theories that I've had about some teams that were definitely brought forth a little bit more this week. So we'll talk about all of that as we get into it here, and we are going to do just that. Make sure you hit that like button if you enjoy the video. But let's get into it here. Starting at number 32, we have the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, they are a young, talented team. I don't know how many wins they're going to get in the NFL, but they are well coached. They have some first-round receivers. They've got a good quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa. So they are going to come in at 32 here, but there are some bright things on the horizon for the Crimson Tide. At number 31, we've got the New York Jets, who are just completely falling apart. I was actually a little surprised to not see a Todd Bowles firing today. Now, I'm actually a Todd Bowles guy. I think he's a really good defensive coach. He's just dealt a really tough hand here. You know, it's a pretty lackluster roster talent-wise. He's a defensive guy in an offensive league now with the high expectations now after getting Sam Darnold. So I think he's going to go on and be a pretty good defensive coordinator in the NFL, maybe even get a head coaching job in the future again. But the Jets right now are just an absolute train wreck. You can see that it's not just Sam Darnold the reason they haven't been very good the last few weeks. And is another reason I'm giving really all of these rookie quarterbacks just a total pass this year. And then number 30, we got another one of those teams with a rookie quarterback, Josh Rosen. Now, they actually played pretty well against Kansas City. It just wasn't enough for me to move them up or down. But I just, they kind of are what they are. They're very lackluster, just like the Jets in terms of talent. And they're not going to win a lot of games. Let's move on. At 29, we've got the San Francisco 49ers. The one thing I will say about them is their offensive line has been awesome. And Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm sure, cannot wait to get back and play behind that line. Mike McGlinchey looks like a great pick, just a stud right tackle, one of the best right tackles in the NFL this year as a rookie. Yet again, reasons to be optimistic. They do get a loss, which is good for the draft stock. So more of the same for the 49ers, and really more of the same for the Giants. Even though they do pick up this win, they were not favored to win, and they do pull out the W, but it doesn't really matter to me. We saw more of the same offensively, just no pass protection for Eli, and defensively, just really nothing to talk about. So a pretty lame team, pretty stale team. 28. And then 27, a decent rise here for the Buffalo Bills. This tier from 27 down, they're all very close. I think there's a line here being drawn after the Buffalo Bills because these really are just bottom feed teams. But at least the Buffalo Bills defense is the best unit of any of these teams we just talked about. Obviously, 32 should be the Oakland Raiders. But the Bills do have a good defense. Unfortunately, their offense is one of the worst we've ever seen. So they can play spoiler really any week if they can get a lead early, just like we saw against the Jets, but I'm not expecting them to really come back and win any games that they fall behind early either. Number 26, we've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers breaking a record, or at least resetting it, 480 yards in this game of offense and only 3 points. That is the fewest points with that many yards since 1960, and that is such a good reflection of kind of what this team is. It's just a sloppy team. They can move the ball. They've got some really good playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. The defense actually played okay in this game, but you just can't trust this team to finish anything, and this game was just a microcosm of their season. Number 25, the Miami Dolphins. Injuries are adding up for this team. They're probably going to get Ryan Tannehill back pretty soon here, but I'm not really sure how much that matters. But Brock Osweiler has not been very good. They're fine. They're going to compete in some games, but they're 5-5 now. I think they're going to really start adding up some losses and fall out of the playoff picture here in the next few weeks. Number 24, the Detroit Lions, who have definitely dropped down a tier in the last couple weeks. This team is terrible. For a team that is supposed to be kind of defensively well coached under Matt Patricia, they can't tackle. They have no discipline. This offense has fallen apart. They have just no cohesiveness. This team looked like one of the worst teams in the NFL this week. They'll probably be a little better than that going forward, but I think we can officially say goodbye to the Detroit Lions. Number 23, the Cleveland Browns, moving up 3 spots here. Kind of addition by subtraction with the coaching staff. The offense looked pretty good in this game against Atlanta. We know this defense can play a little bit. Nothing crazy here from Cleveland. I don't think they're going to go on some nuts run and sneak in as an AFC wildcard here, but they are a pretty feisty team, and I don't think anyone is really looking forward to playing them. This is definitely a team that can come in and get some upsets just like they did this week against Atlanta. And then number 22, the Denver Broncos. They kind of are, I think, who we know they are. They're not going to score very much. They've got an okay, above-average defense with Von Miller. They're going to play in some tight games, but just when all is said and done, you're not really scared of this team. And then number 21, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, you guys know I'm happy. This was my big call of the year was, bet your house on the Jaguars to miss the playoffs. It seems we can probably count them out. That division looks much better, just like we predicted. And the Jags, just with Blake Bortles and the defense taking a bit of a step back, it is all coming true for the Jags. This team's falling apart. I'm not going to lie and say I'm not enjoying it. But that said, this is still a pretty scrappy defense. They're pretty similar here to like Denver in that they can, against a lot of teams, keep the score down a little bit. And then number 20, Dallas Cowboys. I know Cowboys fans are going to expect some crazy jump after they go into Philly and win, but let's not forget a week ago when this team was just embarrassed by Tennessee in Dallas. This is the beauty of my power rankings, is I'm not too overreactive from one week to the next. 3 weeks ago, I was kind of on the stock up train for Dallas. That Tennessee game was a huge red flag for me. Now, this was a big win this week. It got them in the hunt for the NFC East that is just going to be a mess down the stretch here. So stock definitely back up again for Dallas, though I still think they've got some problems. And then number 19, this one, I'm not going to make any friends here with this team. I haven't really over the last 5 weeks. This is going to be the classic, oh, how can you put this team here? Their record is 6-2, and you've got 500 teams ranked above them. I'm an eye test guy. If you want to do your power rankings by the standings, don't look at power rankings videos. There is a reason this team was underdogs against Tampa Bay. And by the eye test, Washington is not a good football team. I'm sorry. They can't move the ball offensively, and I don't trust their defense. I like their defense. They are scrappy, and they can create turnovers, but that's not necessarily a reliable way to win games, especially in this modern league where offense is so important. Seriously, I watched every minute of that game this week. Washington literally sat in the corner and waited for the Bucs to beat themselves in that game. Tampa Bay doubled them up offensively in terms of yardage, first down conversion rate. There was no way Washington should have won that game. Now, credit them for their conservative play style, taking care of the football, getting some turnovers rather. That's what this team does, but you don't get to play the Tampa Bay Bucs every week. Now, this team could still win this division because of their standing, but you stack up all the other NFC teams, whoever gets to play Washington in the first round of the playoffs is licking their chops, because I don't think anyone's scared of the Redskins right now. And then you've got the Eagles, who are going to have a drastic drop. Now, I just said I don't have crazy week-to-week overreactions. Well, the Eagles were number 1 in my power rankings to start this year. And I have kind of held steady with them. They had moved down to number 8 as of last week. I really thought this was going to be the week where they proved me right and turned things around. But I need to open my eyes at this point. It just doesn't really feel like, especially after this week, like that is going to happen. The offensive line just is not playing like it was last year. That's the biggest reason that I think they have had this drop-off, but just so many injuries on the defensive side of the ball as well. This is just not the same team as they were last year. Now, yeah, I'm going to rank them ahead of Dallas and Washington. If I'm, say, a playoff team and I get to pick who wins the NFC East as my matchup in the first round of the playoffs, this is how I would do it. I still think Philly, on any given game, can show up, but they've just got a lot of issues right now. And then number 17, we've got the Atlanta Falcons. We mentioned some underlying theories that we've kind of hinted at in these power rankings, and the Falcons kind of coming true here. So I've kind of stuck with them over the last 2-3 weeks. Despite their record being poor, they go on some runs, they pull off some upsets. But I said now with these road games, Matt Ryan in cold weather on the road, it's not where he thrives at all. He really is only good for the most part at home in a dome. History tells us that this is not a very good road team, and they were not good in Cleveland. So I thought this team would drop off as they get these road games later into the season, and this looks like the start of that. Number 16, the Tennessee Titans. This team has just floated from like 15 to 19 all year. Obviously a big win, really dominating the Patriots. Definitely their biggest win of the season. So I will credit them that. They are right in this thing for the AFC South. They're right in it for the wild card. But I'm still not buying into this team having any sort of explosive offense. Corey Davis did look good in this game, so if they can really get that rapport going with Mariota and Davis, maybe I'll have to rethink it. The defense is pretty solid as well. It's just a really solid team, and I think 16 is a good spot for them this week. 15, we've got the Indianapolis Colts, who have absolutely come on in the last few weeks. Andrew Luck is back at his elite top 5 quarterback form. One of my predictions in the preseason was that by the end of this year, we would feel comfortable saying Andrew Luck is a better quarterback than Tom Brady. Right now, I'm taking Andrew Luck over Tom Brady, that's for sure. This offensive line has been such an upgrade for this team. Something Luck has never had is a top 5 or 10 whatever offensive line. They are playing like that right now. Quentin Nelson looks like the next Zach Martin in this league. Costanzo's back protecting Luck's blind side, and they're just bullying dudes right now. So a big win against Jacksonville. Now, standings-wise, they've got some ground to make up, but this is a red-hot team that is coming for a playoff spot, and I don't think anyone wants to play the Colts right now. Number 14, the Seattle Seahawks, actually moving up despite the loss this week, just kind of by nature of how the Falcons, Eagles, and Redskins looked to me this week. But the Seahawks, I think, are still a super competitive team. We're going to have a really big game this Thursday night between Seattle and Green Bay. Serious wildcard implications in that game. The loser of that game probably going to be looking like an eliminated team. So we're going to learn a lot about Seattle on if they're going to maybe be a playoff team this year, or if they're going to be kind of that team. I've had them all year as that scrappy team that can pull some upsets that no one really wants to play, but at the end of the day is going to fall short of the playoffs. 13, the Chicago Bears, moving up 4 spots. Based on what the Bears fans have said, that's still not going to satisfy them. Look, as crazy as it sounds, this win against Detroit, a double-digit win against Detroit in their own stadium, was their most impressive win on the season. Chicago has taken care of business. You only get to play who you play, but Mitch Trubisky does not pass the eye test to me. He is a sporadic thrower. Really good breakdown by Steve Palazzolo and Sam Monson on kind of how his stats don't match up with how he grades out with PFF. And the film totally agrees with that, in my opinion. I still don't trust Trubisky. Obviously, the defense is great, but I keep saying it's an offensive league. An ultra test here for the Bears as they're going to play the Vikings this week. Now, they match up well with Khalil Mack and that defense against a terrible Vikings offensive line, and it's going to be a real test for the Bears. But until I see it, I'm not comfortable with this team in the top 12 just yet, though it was a big win in convincing manner against Detroit this week. Number 12, the Houston Texans. They were on bye, but they're moving up because guys around them falling. Another team that could potentially move up into that top 10, but I just want to see a convincing win. They've kind of squeaked away a lot of their wins this year. They are a missed field goal away from losing to the Broncos. They almost lost to the Bills at home a couple weeks ago, so they're definitely heating up, but I still have my reservations about that team. I still don't think they can block anyone up front. And then number 11, the Baltimore Ravens, who were on bye, just kind of hanging around there as that solid, good defensive team. I did come close, though, to dropping them below like Houston and the Bears. You could certainly make an argument for that. And then Cincinnati, they've really been pretty solid all year, but getting blown out by the Saints, you don't want to see that. They're going to have to respond this week to really maintain this, I guess, top 10 ranking. But there is definitely a tier now being drawn here as we get to the number 9 team with the Carolina Panthers, staying put at number 9. which is going to sound wild because they got absolutely blown out by the Steelers. But if you remember, I've been saying this team's a little overhyped. I don't know if they can really hang with the big boys. The offense is kind of crafty, but not overly explosive, and the defense has a good front seven, but their secondary you just can't trust against good receivers. That's exactly what we saw against the Steelers. I still think they're a solid team. They're a playoff team, but definitely making me look good for not pushing them up into that top 8, 7, 6 range. Most people had them 5 or 6 last week. And then number 8, the Green Bay Packers, really just kind of moving up by default. They take care of business against the Dolphins. I'll stand by the fact that all of this team's losses have been off of very fixable mistakes, stupid turnovers, fumbles, missed field goals. When you really look at this team, they pass the eye test in a way that they can hang with teams like the Patriots and the Rams on the road. Definitely still need to figure some things out, and I think there's a tier being drawn again before you get into the next group of teams. But I have no problem with Green Bay here at 8, especially with Aaron Rodgers starting to look better every week. And then number 7, the New England Patriots. And we kind of hinted last week that I'm really starting to think that this team is overrated. I even said that heading into the year kind of hesitantly and really on a macro scale that I won't go too heavy into this, but it is really holding up that, I said last year was just an absolute asterisk season, in that the Patriots literally walked into the Super Bowl. You look at the NFC that was just ravaged by injuries. And I had some reservations thinking that some of the teams that were in that Final Four last year, obviously Jacksonville being one of those teams, me basically saying that those teams aren't necessarily getting worse, but just because everyone else is kind of getting back healthy, that on a power scale, the teams that were really good last year aren't necessarily entering this year at the top. And I kind of pumped the brakes on that take because that's a slippery slope, but it is really holding up. I mean, you look at the 4 teams from the championship games last year, the Eagles have completely fallen off, same with the Jaguars. The Patriots are not that scary. You can score on them, and offensively, I'm not even sure they're good right now. Like, Tom Brady does not look good. He's not getting protection. He doesn't have the receivers right now. It's kind of a mess in New England right now. Now, they're going to figure some things out. They're going to win their division. They'll probably be in the AFC Championship. But I would really be starting to get worried with some of these other AFC teams heating up right now, because the Patriots were able to walk into the Super Bowl last year. Well, this time the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Steelers, they're going to be factors that they're actually going to have to take care of this year instead of just, beating Blake Bortles in Foxborough. There's a little bit of a difference there. So the number 6, the Minnesota Vikings, definitely heating up, coming off the bye. Big game in Chicago this week, Sunday Night Football. It's going to be a good one. And then we've got the Chargers staying put here. They take care of business against the Raiders. At some point, Joey Bosa's coming back. Don't know when that's going to be, but their offense is explosive as hell, and their defense has been really good for the last few weeks. And then the Steelers are going to move up a couple spots here, absolutely heating up. We had a feeling this offense was going to, because there's just too much firepower for them not to be good offensively. But really impressed with this defense. The linebackers are playing better. The secondary, it's not great, but they've kind of done their thing. And then the pass rush has really stepped up in the last month. So I really like the Steelers right now. And then the Rams at number 3. The Cooper Kupp injury is not a small thing. He is a critical part of what he can do in the slot for that offense. Really good off of play action. They're going to have to rely more on Robert Woods, which you could do worse, obviously, but it's one less weapon here for this Rams offense. And defensively, they have not been very good almost the entire season now at this point. But they are going to play this number 2 team here, the Kansas City Chiefs, literally in a neutral stadium. So we're going to find out who the better team is in a neutral field this week between 2 and 3, which is super rare to decide something like that. Because that really is what the power rankings is. It's who do I think wins in a neutral field? Well, here we go. Kansas City has also slowed down a little bit, kind of like the Rams. The offense is still super good, obviously, but they're not on those historic rates that they were on for the first 5 weeks of the season. And we know this defense isn't very good. So I definitely think the gap between the Chargers and the Rams and kind of those next 3 or 4 teams has definitely narrowed, whereas about 2 or 3 weeks ago we said that there was kind of a top 3. Now I think we've got a top number 1 that is clear cut, and that is the New Orleans Saints, who have just been unstoppable other than like the Baltimore game since week 1 where they lost to the Bucs. I don't think anyone's going to dispute the Saints at number 1. So those are the power rankings this week. Again, hit that like button if you enjoy. Looking forward to hearing from you guys in the comments as always. So cheers. We'll see you next time.